Hello, everyone! Welcome to the finale of LIT TWOW. Honestly, it's kinda surreal just saying that. I'm really looking forward to showing off this round's results, but first off, we have a couple of confessionals to get to. Joowsy sent...
Hi everyone, Joelzy MA here. I was originally going to half-pass some text message so this doesn't take up much of the video, but I figured this is more me and more so what I would like to do. And also it ended up taking like only 2 minutes, so whatever. I think we all know that at no point in the competition I thought I would win. I even made a really stupid comment on how I would travel and meet up with Leah because I didn't think that the possibility of me getting this far existed. That message might just be my economic downfall, but whatever, we'll see. Anyway, having gotten here is crazy, and I can say with confidence that what I've experienced and have yet to experience on this video this season has been nothing short of amazing, and no matter the outcome, I will be happy and proud of the result. Though, obviously, winning will be ideal. And also absolutely crushing Not a Donut because I fucking hate him. Looking at this round's responses and knowing which ones are mine, I think the win is going to Nat, honestly. However, I still think I've got a fair shot, and I love the feeling of experiencing a last round without having to worry if I'll even advance to the next one. Like, this is it, it's as far as I could have gone. Either way, looking at the last 2 rounds results, where we both placed within 1% of each other, I think both me and Not a Donut have an equally fair shot of winning. Unless it's a popularity contest or a standard deviation one, of course. If that were the case, I think we all know that I would beat the fuck out of him. Nah, but in all seriousness, I'm really looking forward to this finale, and I think it'll be amazing. So thank you so much to everyone on my team Fleur, to Leah, and best of luck to Not a Donut.
Not a Donut sent...
Did you hear that Steve Jobs died of leukemia?
Now, without further ado, I present to you LIT 12 finale results. And by a margin of 8.87%, the winner is... Not a donut! Joa! Oh my god! Joa! If someone told me back in January that you would have gotten second in LIT TWOW, I would admittedly have my doubts, but I'd be extremely hyped. In hindsight, considering the absolute miracle run you pulled off, I think that would have been an appropriate reaction. I'll be honest, I was practically begging for you to survive every round, because your boldness to submit ridiculous responses is something that's simply unparalleled by any other active TWOWer right now. I breathed a massive sigh of relief to myself when you made alumni, but then you just kept going and going. You narrowly scraped surviving the first alumni round, and you only made it past round 17 due to a misstep in Pika Man's vote and a last-second tiebreaker vote from my girlfriend. Yet you also decided to just casually win several major rounds in between those close calls? I could seriously talk for hours about your run in this season exclusively, but I do have to move on before this becomes the Joowsy show. Just know that your titles of Standard Deviation Queen and Procrastination Queen were totally uncontested and righteously upheld this season, and that your performance was one for the ages. I guess winning my All-Star season just wasn't enough glory for you, huh? In all seriousness, you completely earned this win, and there's no way to dance around that. When I first read your response about Heat Death, I thought to myself, this is the response that will win LIT TWOW, and as corny as that sounds, I was right. Even if you weren't able to snag Frontrunner until Trojan's death, there's no denying the iron fist you held over this season, writing banger after banger and never once going anywhere near the danger zone. The way you went from the self-described most forgettable finalist of my TWOWs to winning 2 of them is the type of character development I love to see. It's easy to forget the scale of this season, but you just won the largest vanilla TWOW to finish since early 2021, and I cannot congratulate you enough on that achievement. Thank you so much for seeing this through to the end, Nad. You deserve to go down as one of the absolute greatest TWOWers of the modern era. Before we move on, here's the full leaderboard for the finale. I'll leave this up for a few seconds. So, now that the main part of the finale is over, how about I get into that season retrospective I was talking about? Even though we didn't reach the VPR goal for it, I really like looking back on what I've made and reviewing how it all went over, so I'll go ahead and dive right in. The first mention of LIT TWOW I can find is from June of 2022 in a DM convo with Tonya. I mentioned wanting to follow up Leo TWOW, my first ever TWOW season for those who don't know, with a sequel season, and entertained the idea that Tonya could co-host, and we could call it Leo Including Tuna TWOW, abbreviated to LIT TWOW. Eventually, the acronym shifted to Leah Including Tonya to reflect our change in usernames. We kept talking about this on and off with varying levels of seriousness, and it more or less became a joke as we both kept making more and more respective projects, both separately and together, and gradually saw less of a reason to ever host that one specific TWOW. Everything changed in early December when Carrie announced that 25B would be coming out soon. Pretty much every active host in the community scrambled to create something so they could profit off of the inevitable new wave of TWOWers, and Tony and I quickly realized this was the perfect opportunity to let LIT TWOW see the light of day. I whipped up a 15-second video ad for the episode, and flash forward a month later, we have 177 contestants, by far the largest new TWOW of the 25B era. Contestant counts of this caliber outside of Doubled had practically been unheard of for the last 2 years, and considering the largest season hosted by either of us at the time had only 91, it was safe to say we were in over our heads. Still, we pushed forward with excitement. I stayed up until 4 in the morning to make the detailed round 1 voting sheet, and things went over surprisingly smoothly. Until we realized at the tail end of the deadline that I had fucked up the characters on the voting sheet and that there were countless vote errors that the calculator wasn't catching. Thankfully, Pepsi swooped in and completely saved our asses by fixing all the mistakes and calculating results on a new sheet, and after a long delay brought on by Tonya stubbornly deciding to make a high-effort danger zone with 72 people in it, we finally managed to host results. Adamanti was the first round winner of LIT TWOW, followed up closely by Chirito, Joelzy, Username, and Octavia, among others. Aqueducts, Kaestra, and Polydot, newcomers to TWOWing, showed their potential early on by stacking a prize in round 1, and DDDB prize cuck by 0.1%. I forgot to put this in the script, but DDDB also prize cucked round 2, just felt like I should mention that somewhere. Hilariously, eventual season winner Not a Donut placed 69th in round 1, and was almost given a prize as a joke. Because of the high amount of throws, surviving the first round was basically completely free unless your name was Nerdy Gal. Also, Doodle Matt, the round 1 scrate, made his way into my alumni prediction purely because I thought it would be funny. That one didn't age very well on my part. Tragically, Tonya ended up quitting the TWOW community and leaving the hosting team of LIT TWOW shortly after round 1 because of unrelated circumstances, causing a month-long delay between rounds and a plethora of DNPs. Notable round 2 DNPs were Marbleside, round 1 prizer Q-Uni, and newcomer Nexanex, who brainstormed many interesting TWOW twist ideas in the server before leaving. Determined not to let the passion project die, however, I got off my ass and hosted round 2 for the 124 people who still cared enough to play. I'll quickly skim through the next couple of rounds because not much interesting happened, but interesting things to note are that the TRP mechanic was introduced. Aqueducts, Meowie Cat, Octavia, Username, and Trojan dominated the early game. Newcomer Pikaman prized in round 2 with a fantastic but highly controversial pun response. Threatening players like Kaden, Mr. Dell, Evrion, Pepsi, and DDDB died shockingly early, and I continued the time-consuming torture that Tonya began of making stylized danger zones every round. Also, shout out to Maple Squirrel 432 and Plasma Dolphin for getting revived after I forgot to record their round 2 responses. I also want to give a brief mention to round 3 because everything completely fell apart this round. People realized due to some of the responses in round 2 that the meta was extremely exploitable in LIT TWOW, and so in round 3 they started submitting extremely stupid responses, and those extremely stupid responses started prizing. Round 4 was a doozy. I missed Vizurian's DRP and gave her a 10% boost to compensate, which ended up thrusting her from prize cucking all the way into second place. After narrowly surviving the first few rounds, my stepdad tragically died, and of course, Aqueduct scraped the round with what has been described as the worst TWOW response of all time. Notably, Fish was the efficiency champion by a massive margin at this stage of the game, having landed low in the danger zone and barely surviving every round so far. Round 5 was a change of pace in more ways than one. I introduced the 100 character limit for the first time of the season, Fish shocked everyone by pulling off a prize, and the name's H finally died after 5 rounds of throwing with Cookie Run Kingdom responses. Also, Dumb Bacon suddenly followed up a prize streak by scraping by 0.4%, mirroring what Aqueducts did the previous round. By round 6, the pool of contestants had been narrowed down to 50. Trojan won the round with a mind-boggling and record-setting score of 92.53%. That's with, if I recall correctly, 26 VPR, by the way, which is absolutely insane. And on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, ALITL placed last with 0.39%. Among shocking deaths like Vibroxy, Daybreak, and Morioville, Fish began to form a prize streak, and an artichoke narrowly cucked the round to fitness. L. Round 7 was a really fun one. Hakun won the round after a streak of mediocre performances, and Fish kept up his prize streak with a brilliant, highly concise pun response. Bubble Trumps achieved their highest score of the season this round, and Elevators and Vizuriant barely missed out on 1x1s. Round 8 was the first 1x1 round, as well as the Alumni Decider. Octavia and Aqueducts dominated the round, and major underdog Alex31 barely snagged a treasured alumni spot. Chirito was the season's alumni cuck, with its Sergi, Puzzly Pugsley, and Aubrey being close behind. Fitness got last by a landslide. With 26 contestants remaining, what better way to kick off the alumni phase of the TWOW than with 3 highly skilled contestants immediately DNPing? Yes, we unfortunately lost the trio of Adamanti, Itioti, and Late Worm 31 through the tragedy of oversleeping. Heading into round 9, it was an interesting one. Up-and-comer Arnu won the round by a large margin, and most of the underdogs unfortunately died out fast. Gohaki Futek cucked the round to Joa, who wrote a highly risky, highly controversial, highly meta response. That's what she does best, after all. By this stage, Bubble Trumps and Quetzal were the only remaining contestants without a prize to their name. Round 10 marked an unofficial new phase of the game in a way, with the 100 character limit making its return and me veering away from 1x1s to present a massive 300 slide results comic that took a full month to make. This round also set the record VPR for the season at a whopping 39. I forgot to put this in the script too, but I wanted to mention that Tonya briefly came back to come up with the idea of the medieval theme for this round. I just think that's cool. Aqueducts, Wearywit, and Octavia met their unfortunate and sudden demise this round, leaving the final 14 to battle it out in the second half of the season. Round 11 had a quaint sky theme, which was fitting, as Pika Man soared to the top of the leaderboard with an incredibly dark and humorous response that won by a staggering 18% above second place. Thanks to Trojan's bravery, only 2 people got eliminated this round, Meptune and Hakun, while Meowie Cat managed to scrape by a tiny margin. Round 12 was a fascinating experiment. I tried a more abstract theme of culture for this round, in addition to accepting a plethora of mediocre dummies from living players, eliminated contestants, and bots alike. Joowsy and Meowie Cat recovered from their danger zone status last round by taking up the prize spots, and Quetzal got highly robbed with their response about Australia that utilized upside-down text as a gimmick. Biso and JJJ died by a margin so large that I had to add circles and arrows to the 1x1 board to show their placements, with Epsilon's score of 50.31% somehow being the round scrape. Round 13's theme of fast food was actually chosen by Nad, which ended up being fitting as he won the round. Arnoob and Bubble Trumps were tied as Scrape and Cuck at the deadline, but a tiebreaker vote from the names H actually saved both of them and narrowly pushed Meowie Cat into the Cuck spot instead. She died alongside Username, who placed last in the round by a noticeable margin. Round 14, with its theme of prison breaking, marked the start of single eliminations and universal DRPs. Joowsy and Not a Donut with the top 2, whereas Epsilon took home 8th place overall, with Arnoob scraping for the second time in a row. Round 15 wasn't particularly memorable, but I really liked a lot of the responses. Trojan won by a huge margin, leaving no crumbs behind for everyone else. Quetzal met an unfortunate end, with Bubble Trump scraping into the final 6 by less than 1%. Round 16 was the last 1x1 round of the season. Joowsy took home the final prize of the game, and Arnoob tragically passed away, perhaps due to only submitting one response in a UDRP round. The world will never know how far he would have gone if he had remembered his DRP. Round 17 was probably the peak of LIT TWOW hype. I made a full video comic for the round, with each member of the Final 5 choosing a song to be featured in said video. Once again, the Scrape and Cuck were tied at the deadline, but a tiebreaker vote from my girlfriend Claire, who also made most of the backgrounds and assets used in the comic, sent Pika Man home in 5th and let Joa barely move on into the Final 4. Round 18 was a bit of a return to form, with a short comic leading into a vote-by-vote reveal of all 12 contestant responses and their scores over time. It was an extremely close round, perhaps even the closest I've ever hosted, with the eliminated player swapping around with nearly every vote. In the end, however, Not a Donut won the round with only a 5% difference between himself and last place, and Trojan died, shocking everyone and putting an end to the dream of reclaiming the NR record set years ago by Juju Moss. The final 3 entered the semi-final round 19, which was themed around video games and had a Danganronpa-inspired prompt. While Bubble Trumps put up an incredible fight, they ended up going out with the highest elim score of the season, possibly only dying due to having to rush out their responses out in a drunken state. That, of course, left Joowsy and Not a Donut as the finalists of LIT TWOW, and you already know how that turned out. I'm going to pass the mic over to Tonya now so that she can give a little retrospective of her own and talk about her experience as a temporary host of the season. What do you have to say, Tonya?
Hi! This is Tony Chopper, former host of LIT TWOW, and Leah asked me to do a short retrospective of the season, which is what I'm doing now. So, overall, obviously, my contribution to LIT TWOW was, in the long run, minimum. I did some of the signing up, and I hosted round 1 results with Leah. And then some unfortunate events happened, and I quit TWOW. But I kid you not, that 3, maybe 4 weeks of hosting are some of the most important weeks of my entire life. In the sense that LIT TWOW has the most fucking incredible community I've ever seen in any Discord server. Now, I remember when we were hosting round 1 results, I was, at that point, I wasn't really experienced with TWOW. I only did, I think, 1 season at that point, and it wasn't finished yet. And so I had no idea how big this would actually be. And I just remember typing the danger zone reveals and then just going into the voice channel and seeing like 30 people talking in it and then like 30 other people talking in the results chat. It's fucking insane. The fact that you are so dedicated to it's WoW, so active, so like funny is generally incredible to me. I can't believe that me and Leah got such a cool fucking group of people around us. And really, LIT TWOW subverted my expectations in many ways. Because I remember, so the idea was actually made in the idea of me and Leah hosting a TWOW was made in early summer 2022, and then we made LIT TWOW for the 25B wave. And me and Leah always thought this wouldn't really be big. It'd get like 50, maybe 70, 80 maximum contestants. And then we just knocked that shit out of the park by having a top 20 biggest WoW of all time. And obviously those numbers weren't just numbers, they were genuinely interested people, which is incredible. And LIT TWOW taught me as both a TWOW host and a hosting personality in general so many things, and I have transferred into different aspects of my life. And in the long run, LIT TWOW is very influential to me. And with that out of the way, I just like to say two more things. First of all, thank you, Leopardson, for coming up with the idea of hosting a TWOW together, because obviously it didn't work out in the end, but the one round we hosted was so fun. I think we have an incredible dynamic, and I'd really love to host some of you in the future. And second of all, thank you to all of the 177 contestants who joined LIT TWOW. You made my days for when I was host. Logging into the server and seeing new messages from you was something I looked forward to every day. That was corny as fuck, I'm sorry. I just really love you all, guys. Anyways, back to Leah.
Whew! Going through the entire season like that was a bit exhausting, but I'm very glad I did it. Before I wrap things up, I want to give a few thanks to the people who made all of this possible. Thanks to Pepsi and the other members of the Prompt GC for helping with prompts and themes throughout the season and for generally giving me the motivation to keep hosting. I really do appreciate you guys. An additional thanks to Biso, also known as Zarai, for mega voting in a lot of the early rounds and for making a ton of art, memes, and other content for the season. He, as well as Meowie Cat, Vibroxy, and Mayaki, among others, really helped to keep the LIT TWOW community alive, and I enjoyed the late night VCs we often spent in the server. Lastly, thanks to Nerdy Gal, White Cyclosa, and DDV for being extremely prolific voters throughout the season, even long after their eliminations. You guys rule. Oh, and before I forget, I want to mention something that will probably take a lot of you by surprise. LIT TWOW is actually hosted almost entirely on mobile. Tonya made the Round 1 Danger Zone on her tablet, and everything else, logging responses and votes, making the comics for rounds 10-17 in the finale, all of the art, recording, and even video editing, was all done from my phone. The only times a computer was used for hosting this season were to pick out custom colors for the leaderboards in a couple of rounds, and to occasionally take higher res screenshots for results. I think that's honestly pretty impressive. I guess the question on everyone's mind now is, what comes next now that the season is fully over? Well, I have a few things planned. I know I promised a season 2, and I still plan to make that happen eventually, but as fun as it would be to do that thing where I start the next season the same day the previous one finishes, I need some time. LIT TWOW is probably the most fun I've ever had with hosting, but I have a lot on my plate. I need to figure out how to balance stuff like getting a job and learning how to drive with my endeavors in the TWOW community, and my parents' recent divorce is going to shift around a lot of things in my personal status quo. Don't think for a second that I've lost my motivation to host or anything, though, far from it. I have quite a few things planned that will be coming up soon, and I guess it wouldn't hurt to give you all an idea of what those will be, since you've bothered to watch this far into the video. First off, there's going to be a new season of Concise Town once the current one wraps up, with a new and improved boost system that I believe will be an absolute blast. That's probably where most of my passion from hosting LIT TWOW will be directed to next, so I highly recommend checking it out. A bit further down the line, I've also been making plans to host a TWOW themed around Jackbox with loads of different twists with, Siki? Sightsee? I'm still not sure how to pronounce her name, as well as a big mystery project that will probably have full video results every round and will definitely be higher effort than anything I've made so far. On a lesser scale, I'll probably also be hosting a camp with Claire soon. You can expect all three of these projects to launch sometime in the first half of 2024, I think, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for when they do come out. This video is probably running way longer than I had initially planned by now, so I ought to wrap it up by now. I just want to say thank you to everyone who helped Lit TWOW to be the unforgettable experience that it was, including all of you watching the video right now. This has been an incredible journey that I'm delighted to bring to a close after more than 10 months of work, passion, blood, sweat, and tears. With that, I bid you all adieu. Until next time, my friends, Leopard Sun out.